A wife got so mad at her husband, she packed his bags and told him to get out. As he walked to the door, she yelled, "I hope you die a long, slow, painful death." He turned around and said, "So, you want me to stay?"
My buddy got arrested on drug charges, and because it was his first offense, he thought he would get off lightly. But it turned out his lawyer was one of the worst in the state and ended up botching his case. So instead of getting a short term, he ended up getting 40 years without parole. Man, that sentence was way too long.
A taxi passenger tapped the driver on the shoulder to ask him a question. The driver screamed, lost control of the car, nearly hit a bus, went up on the footpath, and stopped inches from a shop window. For a second, everything was quiet in the cab. Then the driver said, "Look, mate, don't ever do that again. You scared the living daylights out of me." The passenger apologized and said, "I didn't realize that a little tap would scare you so much." The driver replied, "Sorry, it's not really your fault. Today is my first day as a taxi driver. I've been driving a funeral car for the last 25 years.
A man and a woman are on a date. At the end of the night, the man asks the woman if she needs a ride home. It's pouring outside. The woman looks outside and says, "That would be very nice, thank you." Once they're in the car, the man says, "Funny, I've never driven a pregnant woman home." The woman says, "But I'm not pregnant." And the man says, "Well, you're not home yet either."
A father came into his son's bedroom early morning. "Dad, I don't want to go to school today," said the boy. "Why not, son?" "Well, one of the chickens on the school farm died last week, and we had chicken soup for lunch the next day. Then 3 days ago, one of the pigs died, and we had roast pork the next day. But why don't you want to go today?" the father asked, and the boy replied, "Because our history teacher died yesterday."
A guy is sitting at home when he hears a knock at the door. He opens the door and sees a snail on the porch. He picks up the snail and throws it as far as he can. 3 years later, there's a knock on the door. He opens it and sees the same snail. The snail says, "What the hell was that all about?"
A New York attorney representing a wealthy art collector called his client and said to him, "Saul, I have some good news and I have some bad news." The art collector replied, "I've had an awful day. Let's hear the good news first." The attorney said, "Well, I met with your wife today, and she informed me that she invested $5,000 in 2 pictures that she thinks will bring a minimum of 15 to 20 million. I think she could be right." Saul replied enthusiastically, "Well done. My wife is a brilliant businesswoman. You've just made my day. Now I know I can handle the bad news. What is it?" The attorney replied, "The pictures are of you, with your secretary."
2 campers are walking through the woods when a huge brown bear suddenly appears in the clearing about 50 feet in front of them. The bear sees the campers and begins to head toward them. The first guy drops his backpack, digs out a pair of sneakers, and frantically begins to put them on. The second guy says, "What are you doing? Sneakers won't help you outrun that bear." "I don't need to outrun the bear," the first guy says. "I just need to outrun you." It's the World Cup final, and a man makes his way to his seat right next to the pitch. He sits down, noticing that the seat next to him is empty. He leans over and asks his neighbor if someone will be sitting there. "No," says the neighbor, "the seat is empty." "This is incredible," said the man. "Who in their right mind would have a seat like this for the final and not use it?" The neighbor says, "Well, actually the seat belongs to me. I was supposed to come with my wife, but she passed away. This is the first World Cup final we haven't been to together since we got married." "Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's terrible. But couldn't you find someone else? A friend, relative, or even a neighbor to take her seat?" The man shakes his head. "No," he says, "they're all at the funeral."
A man was driving down the road when a policeman stopped him. The officer looked in the back of the man's truck and said, "Why are these penguins in your truck?" The man replied, "These are my penguins. They belong to me." "You need to take them to the zoo," the policeman said. The next day, the officer saw the same guy driving down the road. He pulled him over again. He saw the penguins were still in the truck, but they were wearing sunglasses this time. "I thought I told you to take these penguins to the zoo," the officer said. "I did," the man replied, "and today I'm taking them to the beach."